Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and here on my channel I make crystal videos, small business videos, geology videos, sometimes vlogs, and more. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe because I put out new videos every week. I also have cute cats who love filming with me. Her name is Oracle. So real quick, before we get started, I have a question. Don't leave, okay? If you ever interact and comment on one of my videos, please let it be this one because I have an important question. So I'm working on a video about like Geology 101 for crystal buyers and sellers. So like just a basic summary of all important geology related things that you should need to know as a person in the crystal world, kind of like a little class. So if you have any geology related questions, please comment them down below so I can include them in the video. I want to make sure I'm touching all the bases of what people want to know about so I can make this as comprehensive and informative as possible. So if people are new to crystals and want to know about the basic geology things that they need to know without getting too sciencey, that's this video. So please comment down below if you have any questions that can be used in that video. And if you are from the future and the video is already made, I'll link it above. So today's video is a part 2 to a video I made recently, which was all about fake man-made lab-grown crystals. But today I want to talk about fake crystals, which are genuine stones that have been heated, treated, or dyed in some way. I went in more detail about this in the last video, so be sure to check that one out too. But before we start, I want to go through the types of fake crystals again, because not all fake crystals are created equal. In the last video, we touched on the first topic, which is straight up fake crystals. We're talking glass, plastic, lab-grown, man-made, whatever. Completely inauthentic, not real stones. The second variety of fake crystals is heated, treated, and dyed stones, which is what we're talking about today. These are crystals that start as genuine stones. They're real crystals at their base, but they've been enhanced in some way to change their appearance. And lastly, we have mislabeled crystals, which I feel like is the biggest category of fake crystals out there, which is one real stone being mislabeled as another real stone. So they're real crystals, they're just being called by the wrong name. So as always, if you have these crystals or enjoy them, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just important to be educated so you know what you're buying or what you're selling to others. Some of the ones we're going to be talking about today are super well known. Most people know about them already, but some of them might be new and surprising to you. So first up, we have heated amethyst being sold as citrine. Many people are already familiar with amethyst being heated to turn it orange and this being sold as citrine. Many people still love this crystal and find it to be a good, cheaper alternative to natural citrine. I find this particular instance to be pretty harmless, as amethyst and citrine are both varieties of quartz. The color is just changed, and color therapy can be a useful healing tool in itself. So whether the crystal came out of the earth as that color or it was heated to become that color, I still think you can get some of the same properties from it. This just becomes a problem when heated amethyst is being sold as genuine citrine when it's not. So for heated amethyst, look out for those clusters that look just like real amethyst except they're orange. Like this one. I was fooled by this one back in the day. Back when I was a crystal newbie, I bought this as genuine citrine. This was like $25. And I was like, oh my God, this piece is incredible. This is the best deal ever. And I was obsessed with it. And it's still pretty, but if you see something like this, it did start out as amethyst. These heated amethysts also have a noticeably white section. You can see it here on the sides of this cluster, but you can see it in little points or even polished pieces like tumbles as well. Natural citrine doesn't really have any of these white parts. Next up, we have the dreaded dyed agates, dyed geodes, dyed quartz, crackle quartz. Many crystals are subject to being dyed with these bright, vibrant, unnatural looking colors. Lower quality pieces of amethyst, quartz, or agate are often dyed to look more enticing. These are usually pretty noticeable because the colors are just so unnatural and vibrant. Many times you can even see the dye build up within the cracks of the stone. Crystals that have dye on the surface may even have the dye rub off on you when you touch them. Other stones may have the dye rubbed off when they are rubbed with acetone. Even if it doesn't rub off with your hands or acetone, this doesn't mean it's not dyed. Some of them are really in there. These low quality pieces are usually very, very cheap, and you can find them in like gift shops and usually targeted towards kids. This piece is a great example of what dye buildup in the cracks of a stone would look like. This piece is kind of confusing to me because it is like a dyed quartz, agate, whatever. It's been dyed, but they didn't really commit to dyeing it, so it's like just in the cracks and like on the bottom. but here's what it looks like in the cracks of the stone. When it comes to dyed amethyst, most of the time this is pretty obvious, but look for the color of the crystal not just being within the crystal itself, but the same exact color being found on the base of the stone as well. If you look at a natural amethyst cluster, the base is usually like brownish, gray, like a normal looking rock, and the crystals are purple. But in a dyed piece, the base and the crystals will all be one flat color. And it also helps to know that amethyst really only comes in purplish, sometimes black or reddish varieties, but they're not coming in a full set of rainbow colors. A lot of these dyed geodes or amethyst clusters also are often black around the edges. They paint it black, and this is an unnatural feature. Now that we're talking about dyed raw pieces, I want to show an example of something that maybe looks dyed at first glance if you're new. This is cobalto calcite. It is totally normal. It has actually malachite growing in it. It's a really cool piece. While I was describing these unnaturally vibrant colors, a lot of them are dyed a color that looks kind of just like this. So how can you tell that this is real and that the other ones are unnatural? Well, like I mentioned, you can see the rock it's growing out of looks like a rock. You can see malachite in different colors in here. The pink isn't like throughout the whole rock. If this were dyed, they would just dye the whole thing pink, but you can see that it's just the crystals on the top layer that are pink. So a crystal being a crazy color in itself is not necessarily a red flag, but there's other things to look for in combination with that. Now, if that crystal was being sold with a set of other crystals that came in like blue, green, yellow, purple, that would be a little suspicious. And while we're talking about dyed crystals such as crackle quartz, this is a good time to mention that crackle quartz isn't natural. Crackle quartz is natural quartz that has been heated and then quickly put in cold water to cause it to fracture. Dye can be included in the water as well, and this allows the dye to seep into the stone during the fracturing. Next up, we have aura and titanium quartz. One of the most well-known and loved treated crystals is aura quartz. Aura quartz and titanium aura quartz are created when a natural crystal is combined with elements and heated, which cause the elements to bond to the surface of the stone, giving it a really cool iridescent, shiny appearance. This process can be done to just about every crystal. It's most commonly seen in quartz, rose quartz, amethyst, or spirit quartz. I keep seeing more and more aura crystals coming out lately, such as aura carnelian, aura howlite, or aura kyanite. Sometimes this is a subtle effect on the crystal, but sometimes it is really noticeable. Sometimes it gives it crazy, unnatural colors or a crazy rainbow appearance. Here's an example of a little aura quartz point. It is probably a natural quartz and it has the slightest aura on it. Whereas if you look at some of them, they are like totally rainbow colors on one crystal. They're really pretty, but they're noticeably not a natural stone. If you're looking at these crystals in person, you may even notice that the coating can rub off or scratch, and this is a dead giveaway that it's been treated. Another dyed crystal that you might be familiar with is dyed howlite or dyed magnesite being sold as turquoise. Sometimes these are even just straight up plastic. I feel like turquoise is one of those crystals that you kind of need special expertise on to really be able to identify the fakes, because some of them are really good. And I'm no turquoise expert, but I can give you a couple pointers to look out for. For starters, genuine turquoise is much more expensive and rare than these dyed or fake varieties will be. Dyed howlite is pretty easy to differentiate from natural turquoise because it's often perfectly smooth and polished, even cubed, and a very, very saturated color. It very clearly looks like natural howlite that's just been soaked in blue dye. The dyed magnesite variety is a little more difficult to tell apart from natural turquoise. This is something that definitely would have fooled me. When it comes to turquoise, it's best to buy from a very knowledgeable source who can tell you exactly where the turquoise came from. Just be extra cautious of anything labeled as turquoise, especially if the price looks too good to be true, because a lot of it out there is fake. Next up is heated fire quartz. Now this one is weird to me, but a lot of fire quartz is heated to enhance its reddish color. I'm not even sure why this needs to be done, because to me, I think the natural version looks a lot better than the saturated fake heated version. You can tell when fire quartz has been heated because the red is much more vibrant and reddish as opposed to a rusty color, and it can even turn the crystal a little yellowy. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell if these have been heated or not because there's a fine line between the natural red and the artificial red. Here's an example of a heated one to enhance the red color. Next up is fake dyed ruby zoisite. This is one that I haven't seen many people talk about up until recently. Whenever I had seen these, I was very skeptical and iffy about them, but no one was ever saying anything, so I kind of thought I was going crazy. But recently, Spirit Nectar made a really great video investigating these, and it is confirmed that these are dyed. It looks like these stones were originally something much more common, like a granite or a kiwi jasper, and it has been dyed to resemble ruby zoisite. These can even be made with a UV reactive dye, which would lead people to believe that it's real ruby in here. The biggest indication here is that the crystal structure just looks different. Ruby zoisite is very fine-grained looking. It doesn't look like a granite where you can see individual crystal grains in there, but the dyed version does look like you can see these individual grains. And they're just very splotchy looking. Just the patterning of the crystals doesn't look the same as ruby zoisite, but I can see how it's really easy to get them confused. I mostly see this fake version with like little crystal carvings or like pendants, small pieces. I've never seen it in a bigger piece. Next up is heated smoky quartz. Smoky quartz is often heated to enhance its color and make it darker. Natural smoky quartz is often more brown colored as opposed to a stark black. The natural pieces are also more transparent, whereas the black heated versions are opaque. Even a natural smoky quartz that has a really dark color, if you shine a light up to it, you can most likely see through it. Similar to the heated citrine we talked about earlier, sometimes with this heated smoky quartz you can also see that white base that a natural smoky quartz doesn't really seem to have. The color is evenly distributed on a natural piece. A more recent crystal on the market that not many people are talking about is black rose quartz. Black rose quartz I think started coming out around the time that blue rose quartz was getting popular, and it just takes a little bit of thinking to think maybe there's something weird going on here. This immediately raised a red flag to me because black rose quartz, like wouldn't that just be smoky quartz? Like blue rose quartz is already on thin ice here calling itself blue rose quartz when rose quartz is known and named for its pink color. So black rose quartz is really just pushing it too far. So this black rose quartz is not natural. It is heated to enhance this color. It's not the same as smoky quartz. I assume that they do take real rose quartz or blue rose quartz and they heat it to get this color, because it does look a little different than a natural smoky quartz, but I think it's a stretch to call this rose quartz. So these pieces can be really cool and pretty. Sometimes they even have stars, but just know that this is heated. Black rose quartz is not a natural thing. Next up, we have some things to discuss about tiger's eye. Natural tiger's eye only comes in the standard golden color or a grayish blue color. Any other color other than those two have been treated in some way. Tiger's eye, especially beads, are often dyed red, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. Now, like I said, tiger's eye can come in a bluish color, but this color is much more grayish and subdued than a dyed blue tiger's eye. This natural blue tiger's eye is also often intermixed with a golden tiger's eye. It's much less vibrant than the dyed version. Another thing with tiger's eye is red tiger's eye is actually heated to get this color. Tiger's eye can have a bit of a more reddish color naturally, but the red tiger's eye on the market has been heated. Two more crystals that are often dyed are selenite and calcite. I separated these from the other dyed crystals because they do look a little different, but it's still basically the same thing. They just don't appear as saturated, at least in my experience. So satin spar selenite does only come in a white and a peach color. So if you see it in any other colors, it has been dyed. And while calcite does come in many colors, just about any color, the dyed ones are very obvious because they usually are like striped, rainbow. As with other dyed stones, you can usually see this dye build up within the cracks. Now this next one is another new one, and this is a little sad and unfortunate to report, but the new carnelian and moss agate mix coming from China is dyed. These became popular earlier this year, and I thought they were so beautiful and cool, but I was a little bit skeptical of them. It has been confirmed by wholesalers that this is just regular moss agate that has been dyed red to make it look like a unique carnelian and moss agate mix. Now, carnelian and moss agate actually can be found together. Around the same time that these dyed varieties were getting popular, I found some genuine pieces at the Tucson Gem Show. It looks like this. I'm so happy that this sphere came a little bit broken in my shipment back from Tucson, because that meant I get to keep it and I love it so much. Now the biggest difference between the genuine one and the dyed one is the dyed one looks just like a regular moss agate piece except red. But if you look up close at the genuine one, you can tell that it's like a regular old piece of carnelian with these mossy inclusions growing within. But like the difference is that the fake one looks like moss agate with carnelian, whereas the genuine one looks like carnelian with moss agate, if that makes sense. But like you can see in the natural one that these two crystals are growing together, whereas the fake one just looks like moss agate with red plopped on top. I was very disappointed to hear that these were dyed because I thought they were really cool. Another thing to look out for with carnelian is dyed agate being sold as carnelian. Now I know this sounds a little confusing because carnelian is a type of agate. It's a little tricky because agate can be red, and there also is sardonyx, which is a natural red variety of onyx, but even though genuine carnelian exists, there is still dyed red agate out there, or natural red agate that is just a little different than carnelian. As with most dyed or fake things, I usually see these with cabochons in jewelry. I would just look out for like this aggressively contrasty red and white banding, or any carnelian that is like suspiciously fully red. Carnelian usually has a little bit of color variety in it. It's not normally solid one color, so if you see like a strand of beads that is just like solid red, that's probably dyed. The same thing is done for amethyst, where agate is dyed purple to resemble amethyst. Now this instance is a little more offensive to me because agate and amethyst are different, but I have been seeing a lot of purple dyed agate being sold as amethyst lately for some reason, specifically in bracelets. Again, the thing to look out for here is the unnaturally vibrant saturated color and the contrast between these bands. You may even see the dye built up in the cracks or just like has a fluid look to it within the stone. And lastly, I want to talk about a couple of crystals that are very often heated to enhance their natural color that a lot of people don't talk about or maybe even know about. One of these crystals is blue apatite. Now, blue apatite does exist. Apatite can come in a couple different colors, one of which being blue, but it is more often a more tealy green blue, and many times those very vibrant, almost neon blue colors are the result of heating them to bring about that color. Especially lower quality pieces may be heated to have a more desirable color, and these end up looking very patchy with a lot of white. Carnelian is another very commonly heated stone to enhance its color. Of course, carnelian is naturally orange and red, but it can also be found in a more brownish color than is typically desired, and heating it can enhance those more desirable colors. With these two specifically, carnelian and blue apatite, it can be really difficult, if not impossible, to tell if a piece has been heated. It isn't like amethyst where it turns a completely different color when it's heated. Since the stone itself is natural and heating it doesn't turn it to a completely different color, I find this practice to be pretty harmless, and it's just kind of something to keep in mind when buying crystals. I can't really give a full comprehensive guide on how to tell if these crystals have been heated or not. Just know it's a possibility, it's something that happens out there in the crystal world, and it's something to be cautious of, especially if the stone looks extra vibrant. So that's all I have for you today about heated, treated, and dyed crystals. Let me know if there's anything I missed, comment down below, and maybe I'll make a part 2 if I get a bunch more of them. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out the first portion of this video where I talked about man-made and lab-grown crystals. And there will be another video coming about the most commonly mislabeled crystals to complete the series, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. I will have all my links, including my crystal shop, cosmicgeology.com, linked down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.